can provide speculation opportunities for funds. Since the beginning of FIS, inconsistent words and actions constantly applying to increase investment quotas while loudly short-selling the stock market have been exploiting the policy uncertainty, instability, and unpredictability of the Chinese stock market to profit. On the other hand, the more complex a system is, the more stable it may be. On May, China's A share market unexpectedly fell % due to an increase in stamp duty. On the same day, the H share market only fell % while the B share market fell more than %. This phenomenon has been referred to by foreign media as the strange phenomenon of Chinese corporate stock prices. For foreign investors, the chaos of China's finance is evident. In addition, China's finance is opening up to the outside world, and in the face of various disturbances from external forces, Hong Kong can play a buffering role to some extent. It can be foreseen that China's finance will be forced to develop greatly in the process of being utilized, and the stability of complex system self-organization. However, the complexity and chaos of the financial field itself not only confuse foreign financial capital, but also the management of China. It can only be a matter of cracking down on the situation and being dragged away by the situation. Fourthly, the Chinese-style social liquidation is the most peaceful. It is common around the world that too much funds need to be liquidated. The law is only expressed differently in different economies. In the classic market economy, the outbreak of financial crises became the main way to evaporate funds and close positions. But it brought about severe economic fluctuations and social unrest. For example, the Asian financial crisis caused many large companies to go bankrupt. In South Korea, people also used their household gold products to help the government overcome difficulties. Under China's special way of settling funds, the administrative liquidation has replaced the severe financial crisis. The management often directly forces project shutdowns in the form of policy directives, causing the chain of huge funds to instantly achieving the effect of cooling and evaporating. During this process, banks with government guarantees played the role of shock absorbers. For example, the T-Bund incident completely wiped out the billion-yuan loans of 6 financial institutions, forcing banks to follow the company and suffer significant losses. From this perspective, the market economy with Chinese characteristics has alienated the classic expression of financial crisis and to some extent ensured the smooth operation of the economy. But this seems to China and the United States essentially belong to the same group of people. In fact, superstitious markets and superstitious state-owned enterprises belong to the same era. Experts and scholars mostly believe in the market, while officials, most people, are superstitious about the state. This generation of experts and scholars has been basically indoctrinated with classic Western economic theories advocating for the magical power of the invisible hand of the market and reducing government intervention. Among these scholars, the most typical is Wu Jinglian, who is Wu market, and Gao Gao. Xi Qing and others were influenced by it. As for contemporary officials, they always believed in the power of the government, believed in cybernetics, and preferred to concentrate their efforts on major issues, which was also the main source of the lingering state-owned concept. Between these two, those scholarly officials who excel in learning and become officials, who have achieved the transition from being experts and scholars to officials, have experienced a personality split. They are both superstitious about the market and difficult to resist the temptation of state-owned enterprises, towering above the temple and guiding the country. To put it simply, they are using the market to gain benefits and administrative monopolies to profit from competition. In recent years, officials who have parachuted into state-owned banks as bosses have used the name of shareholding and marketization to give rise to the phenomenon of millions of annual salaries, which is just a microcosm of it. As for market efficiency and government efficiency, whether in the entire history of economics or in the middle, who is higher or lower, there has been a long-standing debate in the process of market-oriented reform in China. Putting aside the linear thinking of either this or that, objectively speaking, the key to better and healthier reform lies in having or hedging these two efficiencies. From the perspective of value orientation, relevant departments want to have both market efficiency and government efficiency, and objectively, the great success of the Chinese economy in the past years also depends on the full combination of these two. However, in recent years, the frequency of hedging between the two sides has increased. Whether it is health care reform, housing reform, education reform, public utility reform, resource price reform, etc., it is either too market-oriented or the government's power is too strong, resulting in obvious negative consequences of hedging. The efficiency of the U.S. government is very high, and its glory comes from the combined force of plus generated by the superposition of two efficiencies. But it deceives other countries to give up regulation and only want a market economy. If Chinese reformers listen to their deceit, as long as the market does not want government efficiency, they will undoubtedly be deceived. Entertainment, mobile TV and online gaming competitions have emerged one after another, and even the Second Life allows people to live an alternative life, which is a product of young people's right-brainedness. Moreover, the right brain's counteraction and subversion of the left brain have already appeared. The separation of the real and virtual economy allows stock prices to no longer rely on physical performance but instead on imaginative space. Whoever has a good story can control expectations, and the stock price rises quickly. The emergence of Google culture, with its casual and entertaining work culture, calls for freedom to play and emphasizes entertainment. Feeling and wasting time correctly have instead become manifestations of efficiency, and such things precisely indicate the expansion of the development space of the right brain. Continuing like this, the focus of the future will clearly shift from left brain to right brain. But this does not mean left brain. The brain will be abandoned. Practice is the only criterion for testing truth, and science is the primary productive force are still unchanging truths. Left-handed thinking methods such as logic and calculation are still in use. But the variables that affect the situation increase, and factors interact with each other. In addition, the weight of uncertainty factors such as expectations increases. As reform enters the deep water zone, scientific and rational thinking frameworks are actually constrained. Jumping out of the frame with right-brain thinking may be more practical. Therefore, the two tractive forces of the aging left brain and the youth right brain are likely to launch a tug of war, so that the problem is no longer a multiple choice that is either left or right, and the solution will also become the middle way of both left and right and neither left nor right. This shift in mindset will drive turbulence at all levels of society, rapidly pulling society into a new era of business opportunities. On the one hand, as the focus of future society shifts from the left brain to the right brain, from rationality to sensibility, from technology to emotion, from the switch from efficiency to satisfaction will also shift the requirements for goods from functionality to ethics, from usefulness to entertainment, from one-way to interactive, and from material to spiritual. This change is not perceived through abstract thinking or rigid mode operations, but rather through personal experience and self-exploration. Free trials, free tasting, interactive AIs for home appliances, and sample rooms are gradually making experiential consumption mainstream, and online experiential marketing has enabled the domestic trial customer base to exceed 3 million. The comprehensive emergence of the experience economy indicates that the 10 trillion yuan and the number of financial professionals also doubled. There have been many phenomena in China's securities market that cannot be explained by non-classical financial knowledge, such as individual investors becoming the dominant player in the market, and their performance is better than that of institutions. There is no established financial theory that can explain the growth rate of China's foreign exchange, and foreign investment banks that are familiar with financial classics often underestimate the development of China's finance regulation and the market evolution are vastly different. The civilization that accompanies a certain industry in history from its emergence to becoming a dominant industry in society, it has gradually become the dominant economic civilization, including agricultural civilization, industrial civilization, and information civilization. Now a series of phenomena have shown that the financial industry is gradually becoming dominant. The number of employed people is rapidly increasing, and the financial industry in developed countries such as the United States has shifted from employees account for over % of the total employed population in the output value of the broad financial industry in the United States accounted for % of GDP, surpassing manufacturing for the first time. This proportion rose 2%, and this proportion is still rapidly increasing at present. The transaction volume of world currency is times that of world trade, which only accounts for 4% of currency transactions related to production and circulation, while the United States has even fewer currency transactions related to production and circulation, accounting for only %. There is almost no substantial connection between financial transactions and the real economy. It can be seen that financial civilization as a new form of civilization has entered the process of human history and will quickly become the dominant civilization in society. The emergence of financial civilization has overturned the three forms of civilization in history, presenting new characteristics of civilization. The labor axiology has been left behind by the new civilization. Buffett's ability to earn hundreds of millions of dollars overnight cannot be explained by the labor axiology. Similarly, the utility theory cannot describe the financial civilization, because the paperless office currency symbol cannot bring any physical and psychological enjoyment to the owner. Since the premise of traditional axiology no longer exists, the general equivalent of social economy is no longer gold and silver. Under the premise of financial civilization, the general equivalent of financial transactions has ownership, superstition, and state motivation. In the first half of GDP grew by %. Foreign trade showed a year-on-year decline. Inflation was high, and small and medium-sized enterprises were struggling sad. Bankruptcy has become a trend. Regarding this situation, the relevant parties are both very vigilant and very anxious. Based on continuous meetings and discussions, they have decided to change the macro tuning from dual prevention to one protection and one control, and have made sufficient articles on protection. In terms of policy rescue itself, it is understandable. But if analyzed from the perspective of macro adjustment history, today's scene is precisely the period of macro adjustment back then, and the current situation proves the remarkable achievements of macro adjustment. The reason why we dare not recognize the macro adjustment results is that the protection and pressure distribution of macro adjustment policies is uneven, which is basically characterized by the protection of state-owned enterprises and the laissez-faire of private enterprises, starting from the tight monetary and land supply in this end of regulation. The GEM has been delayed. Private enterprises have no access to financing, and state-owned enterprises and central enterprises can queue up to go public. The vast number of low-end enterprises in the industrial upgrading have completely lost their protection, and central enterprises take the opportunity to regain lost land and complete industry monopolies and market division, such as telecommunications. This result naturally cannot be accepted calmly by private enterprises. Therefore, the political foundation that can ensure the transformation of economic growth mode is fairness and justice. And based on this, policies can be revised the intention and effectiveness of the measures. Otherwise, the political show of Yigong Heilong will greatly undermine the government's credibility and make the cost of trial and error increasingly high. A prerequisite for establishing a political foundation based on fairness and justice is the establishment of a new concept of the country and a new concept of the people. That is, the understanding of the state transcends the violent machine in the stage of class conflict. B. It is independent of social entities, represents the common interests of all members of society, and takes the establishment of rules and regulations, maintenance of rules, and provision of public services as the main national motivation. Only when the national motivation is pure and selfless can the political principle of fairness and justice not be excluded. The new concept of the people is to restore the people from abstract concepts and exploitable slogans to specific individuals and interest groups. Only through the evolution of negation and negation can the people-oriented people find a realistic career, and the specific,